things went off the rail, that's what kind of got me back in check. And now that I'm here, right, other things are coming to me, other visions, other opportunities, other people are coming into my life to help me continue to, live out this purpose. And for me, it's just like, I'm excited about what the next chapter or the next book is gonna be.
Hey everyone, welcome to BT Talks. I'm Unique, and today we have a special guest who's here to talk about something different. It's his very first book, Adversity for Sale. So I would like to welcome Jeezy to BT Talks.
How you doing today?
I'm good. How are you?
I ain't doing no complaining.
First thing first, what made you want to write a book?
Well, really because I've written songs over the years, and I've glued a connection with real people as far as just the music and the struggle. And over the pandemic, I just was like, I just want to connect even more. And I was learning a lot of things, over the last 5 years, just, about myself, about life, and just getting all this information. And I was like, if I put it in a book form, because at the time I was reading Think and Grow Rich, and I was like, I would like to do my book for my people and my struggle and the things that we go through. And I just started during the pandemic, and it just kept going and going, and now we're here.
I will say, I do see that your demeanor over the past 5 years have changed.
Yeah.
Like, you seem more happy, more open, instead of closed off. So what helped contribute to that?
Life just started really happening, and I was just really blessed. I just started to get a lot of great people in my life, and things just started to change overnight. Just relationships, experiences, just conversations, and it just, you can't fight it. You know what I'm saying? I fought it for as long as I could, and I'm just like, well, I really like this. I like growing. I like talking. I like building. Because it was a point, I really didn't really have no solid relationships with people. I kind of treated it like the streets. It's just like, we cool, but now we're not. I ain't going out of my way to build. And today is the exact opposite. I think people are so dope and interesting, and as you get to know them, you just find out these special things about them, and they always have things to teach and show you, and just as I do. But that just created this shift that was just like, okay, I'm supposed to be over here. Right.
Now, your book is a testament to not only that you're highly favored and blessed by God.
Yes, absolutely.
Super blessed.
1,000%.
But that you endured so much because your purpose was bigger than what you knew it was.
Yeah, and that's the crazy thing. I didn't even understand what purpose was. Coming from where we come from, you think your purpose is just to get out here and make some money and take care of your family. And when I started to walk into that, I'm going like, oh, wow. Interesting. I would get in these situations that were dire, life or death, prison or freedom, and I would always get out of them. Not that I had to do anything to get out of them, and I started to really realize, hold up, and I got real faith. My grandmother raised me to believe in God, but it would be, stuff that would break the average person, and somehow, some way, somebody would come into my life, or I would think to reach out to somebody that would help me work through it, right? And over time, I'm just like, God really must want me to be here to do what I'm doing. Because when I prayed, that's what I prayed for. So just keep me free, keep me alive, and whatever your will is, I'll do that. And it just started to happen in an amazing way. Because you got to think, when you're coming from the streets and you're getting into music, you're not thinking that you're going to blow up. You're thinking you're going to get by. You're not thinking you're going to be in the, just in the conversation with the greats. I grew up listening to Lil Wayne and Jeezy. These are my peers now. You know what I'm saying? So I definitely give all the praise to God.
And that's also what I love about your book is you speak on, even though you had the success that people saw from the outside, it was just so much stuff happening that you never got to enjoy it.
Yeah, in real time. It was, because when you go outside, you still have to be grateful for what you do have, which is freedom and another opportunity. But you're dealing with so much turmoil, right? And you're trying to keep it all together, and also keep yourself sane. So it was just a lot, and I found myself like self-soothing, trying to regulate, like drinking, smoking, just partying, just anything to keep my mind off what was going on. And I don't have any regrets because I obviously I had to go through the fire, but at the same time, I didn't know how I kept all that together because it was some nights I was just like, if I make it another day, I guess I'm good. You know what I mean? So it got to a point where like I would wear certain things because I'd be like, if it's go down today, at least I would be fresh. You know what I mean? Like I would think like that. And sometimes I would leave my house and have in the back of my head, I might not even make it back. You know? And that was my reality why I'm putting out records that were selling, albums that were selling multi-million records. That's crazy, right? You're a superstar and you don't even know it.
You also spoke about this vision you have for yourself, and it's
Right.
amazing to see that it came true. Like,
Yes.
you want to be in your three-piece suit, you wanted your wedding band, like everything you foresaw, even when you were going through all
Right.
this and how you were going to get to it.
Right.
That now that you're in it,
Right.
like, did you think that was ever going to happen for you?
Well, that's what kept me focused. That's what gave me hope every day because I just knew that's the vision that God had for me and I had for myself. And that's what kind of, when things went off the rail, that's what kind of got me back in check. And now that I'm here, right, other things are coming to me, other visions, other opportunities, other people are coming into my life to help me continue to, live out this purpose. And for me, it's just like, I'm excited about what the next chapter of the next book is going to be, right? Because who got to tell that? Like Tupac couldn't tell that. Biggie couldn't tell that. Maybe Jay, But for somebody like myself, it's like, what's on the other side of that? Because we all inspire to be, these global superstars. But then there's still a life that happens after that, right? And what's that like? What's that? What's that look like? What's that feel like? And I'm excited about that.
I'm excited for you.
Yeah, thank you.
But so as we go through the book, you start off, I guess, like around 8 or 9, and you take us up to a little bit after the Recession drop. So as I'm reading this, I'm realizing all this happened when you're like in middle school, high school, and like you just jumped into this life so early. So my main question was like, you were talking about how you were broke. You were in middle school and you were just going through like the feeling of being broke. Why were you worried about money at like 11 years and 10 years old?
Well, I knew I needed it. But I didn't make it to high school.
Okay.
I did
Yeah,
not.
'cause
I
you
got
your GED.
my GED when I was in boot camp. I guess because when you in this, so let me just put it in perspective. So I lived abroad with my family, right? So I saw things that you don't see when you live in the hood, right? But I loved it. I love the beach. I love water to this day. You get me on the boat, I'm good. I love different foods. I love all these things. And when I had to go back to the hood, my first thing was like, is it over or do I figure out a way to get back to that? So a lot of my drive came back to trying to get back to what I knew, right? So as a kid, you're thinking, what can I do to help my mom that's living with my grandmother at the time get a house? What can I do to help my sister go to school? Because now all the burden is on me because my mom and my dad separated. So instantly I became the man of the house, right? So now I want to provide because that's who I am, And as a kid, I was willing to do anything to take care of my mom and my sister. So it wasn't even about me putting money in my pocket. It was like, how can I provide for them? And that's what happens at, 13, 14, and you're like, what do I do?
And it was Uncle Bo Slick that gave you the 20 that changed your
Well,
life?
I'm going to keep it a buck, though. He gave me $20 after I worked with one of my uncles as a roofer. Like,
Yeah.
I was pushing the wheelbarrow around, and it was too hot. You know what I'm
And you
saying?
were tossing watermelons.
I'm not going to front. I was tossing watermelons, you know what I mean, in a field. Imagine that. I was cutting grass. I was washing cars. I was doing everything. And then I just came up on this rough patch, and my Uncle Bo Slick, he's one of my favorite uncles. He was getting a disability check. And, he just sat down one day and, we just talked at the kitchen table, and I just told him I needed some money. And he gave me his last $20, and I looked at it as his last $20 and my first. And I was like, I can't go backwards from this. So what can I do to make sure that I can make the best out of this? And that's just how I went about it. I just took that $20. You know the rest.
Yeah. But like also you just spoke about like why you're in this life at such a young age, you don't really understand what's happening around you. Like,
Right.
you spoke about the passing of one of your friends.
Marcus Clemons.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And like how you didn't process it, but an OG told you, "I'm glad it wasn't me." And
Yeah,
you took
yeah.
on that mentality.
Yeah. Well, you read the book.
I did.
You're not playing. Marcus Clemons was like the coolest. Marcus was tall. He played ball. He's probably like 6'3", curly hair. He was just cool. He was a part of these brothers. It was the Clemons brothers, and I didn't really know what he was doing at first. I just knew he was hanging in this area we called Papa Street. It was like shotgun houses and projects, and I had family that lived over there, so I would go over there and be around them. And I started to know he was doing stuff. And he was like having money all the time, and I just looked up to him. Right? I just wanted to be around him, and I took a natural liking for him because he actually gave me love before anybody really gave me love in the neighborhood like that. And I just remember him making money, me being out there with him, trying to watch his back, hold him down, whatever I could do. You know, I'm yay big. And I remember my auntie was taking me to school one morning, and we saw the police down there where they used to be in the ambulance. And I'm like, what happened over there? She's like, well, you didn't hear about what happened to Marcus? I was like, nah. She's like, he got killed last night. And I'm like, killed? This is the first time I've ever heard that phrase. So I'm a kid. I don't know what that means. I don't know what that means you're never gonna see him again. And when I started to understand what was going on, it just hit me different. I just was reacting like a square, you know, because I'm this kid has come from the military, coming to the hood, and somebody dies. Like, you know, I'm thinking you die of old age, right? I'm not knowing that you can get killed. And I just remember it was a homie named Silk. He was like the big homie over there. He was like, man, you know, we gotta get back to the money. I'm glad it's not me. I'm glad it wasn't me. That's what he said. And I thought to myself, I was like, I'll never think like that. And it was a year later, that's what I was saying. I'm glad it wasn't me. Every time somebody died, I'm glad it wasn't me. Every time somebody went to jail, glad it wasn't me. I gotta get back to the money. I gotta get back to the business. And I just took on that mentality. Over time, I started to feel like, you know, it just got a little tricky because I started to really start to understand I didn't have any emotions at that point. Because after you lose, you know, 50, 60, 70, 100 people, it's kind of like, okay, well, you know, and that hit me, and I took that mentality into my music career, right? You know what I'm saying? So you're talking about, I've been doing the work maybe 5 years now, and I'm just really getting in the space where I can,
Like processing.
yeah, you know what I'm saying, feel.
Because like I realized there was a point when you stopped feeling stuff when you were at the youth camp and you didn't want to go back.
Right.
And you were just contemplating like, should I just end it here?
When you're in it, like when you're in, and I'm definitely not bragging about none of this, but like when you're in the fire, you can't feel it, right? You just, everything's happening in real time. You're losing people. It's real. And when I went to Youth Challenge for the first time in a long time, they took me out the fire, right? Now, I got a different perspective because I'm like, I got to work out every day because that's what they make you do. I got to read. I'm trying to get my GED. I'm learning life skills. I'm doing all these things. I got new friends, you know what I'm saying, that ain't really just from the hood. They're just bad kids. So now I'm just like, oh, okay. So now I'm out the fire. Now I got time to think about what I've lost, what I went through. And when that hurt hit at one time, and you just, it's like an explosion. Like you like, this is my life. Like, what am I gonna do? And this is better than that. You know, when you see that a lot of times when people get out of prison, they don't know what to do with themselves. Is why they don't mind going back, because there's somebody in there. And I was somebody in that boot camp. And I didn't want to go back home because I didn't know what I was going to do. I didn't know what it was going to be. I didn't want to lose anybody else. I didn't want to have to try to figure it out, because that was another thing too. It was like a lot of pressure, right, to try to figure out what I'm going to do. And that was the first time like I ever felt like that, like I wanted to give up, you know. But it didn't last too long. You know what I'm saying? It lasted long enough for me to be like, make a decision now. And I just made a decision. Like, I'm gonna go back home. I'm gonna figure this out. Whatever I gotta do, I just ain't gonna let up. And I went back home and started making calls and started going to cities and cooking up with cats. And next thing you know, I got it cracking.
Talk about in your book like all the ups and downs to get to like that point, because there was a lot of ups, but there was a lot of downs.
Yeah.
A lot.
Yeah, even, I mean, you know, in the streets, 1,000%. But even in music though,
Yeah.
you would think I was on top of the world, but the world was on top of me for sure. For sure. Like Thug Motivation was in Trap or Die. My God, like you have no idea. Like
Like
it was real.
I remember you were explaining everything, just the anxiety and the paranoia and just the
Yeah.
depression all hitting you at once while just trying to like stay afloat and not drown and
Right.
everything.
Right.
That's a lot for anybody.
Well, it's a lot when you don't know the wording for it. Like I can't explain to somebody how I feel, right? And then I don't have insurance. I don't have all these things. Like I don't have a doctor. I don't have a therapist. You know what I'm saying? I'm like just dealing with this, and I'm a street guy that can't talk to nobody around me because we all from the street. I can't go tell nobody I'm having these type of thoughts. They look at me like I'm crazy. They're like, man, you're on top of the world. Like, get it together. So I didn't know what depression and anxiety was. And I didn't realize I was depressed until I started to understand what depression was, and that was around the recession, and that's when I started snapping out of it. But before then, if you ask anybody about my interviews or being in my circumference, they're gonna tell you like he was stiff, like he didn't really talk to nobody, he was always angry. You know, I walk in the barbershop, I'm mean muggy. You know what I'm saying? You catch me in the grocery store, like I'm what you would think of if you think of somebody that's from the street and do what we do. Like I was all of that. And there was so much built up, pent up anger and frustration and post-traumatic stress. And it was just a lot, right? And you know, when you get in that position, that makes you connect with other people who have that, you know, and now you guys are trauma bonded, right?
Super trauma bond.
Right, you trauma bonded, and now you kicking it, and now you into what they into, and you know, you're doing all these things that you probably wouldn't normally do on your own. And I went through that whole, because I'm trying to figure out who I was. I knew I wasn't a rapper. That was the hardest part. It's like I made this mixtape and this album, but what do I do? Because I know I can't do this again. Like, how could I? You know what I'm saying? So what's my next thing is what I'm thinking, right? And, you know, God's willing, it worked out around the recession is when I kind of like, I just snapped out of it. And I just was like, yo, and I just felt it. It was like I had arrived, like I was a star, and I wanted to be. Because before then, I didn't want to be. You know, so I just wanted to survive.
But like even before that, you do have like stories in there that are kind of funny that people don't know about. Like
Right.
I will say, your Cash Money story.
About my grill falling out in front of
Yeah.
baby. Yeah, it was probably one of the worst days of my life. I was actually telling my man about that in the car. He was rolling. I was like, yo, because he's from New Orleans. I was like, you know, it was a time I met Baby and I went to the studio with him and Jazzy Faye, and I put because they had this place called 80s Gold Teeth in Atlanta. You go buy grills, and I bought the platinum grill to go with my platinum Cartier watch and all that. And my guy was like, yo, I'm in the studio recording with Baby them, and I'm trying to get on, so I go hop in my car, pull up over there at the Patchwork, it was a studio. I go in there, I'm sitting upstairs, and they say, Baby, say you can come down. So I go in the room, it's Manny Fresh, it's all, you know, I'm starstruck. And, you know, I'm trying to keep my cool, and then he's like, yo, where you from? And I went to talk to him, and my top grill fell out. And it was like, you know, this Baby, he looking like, who is this clown you got? I was just like, oh my God, I blew it. Probably the best thing that happened, because I didn't sign to anybody. But I would have, that night, for sure, I would have signed, you know, because I just wanted to be on at the time.
And another one is when you went to Magic with Jay and you saw the snowman everywhere.
Yes.
You put a trademark.
Yes. Yeah, shout out to Greg Street. He gonna kill me because every time we talk about this, he called me, he said, yo, man, you need to trademark the snowman. For mind you, two things. The first thing is I didn't know what trademarking meant, and I was embarrassed to tell him I didn't know. So I just went with it. And the Snowman Shirts, shout out to Ashana Ayers, because I had a snowman chain, and we turned the snowman chain into our marketing piece for the Thug Motivation album. So it blew up, and we just pressed up like 100 shirts to give away, snowman shirts. And it just blew up, and we pressed up 1,000. And then all of a sudden, I'm in Harlem, and they selling them in the stores, and they're everywhere. And I couldn't understand it. And Jay-Z called me. He was like, yo, I'm going to the Magic Show. You should come. So we go to the Magic Show, and with me and Jay walking through the Magic Show, and people keep running up to me like, yo, Jeezy, we love you. And I'm just like, what the hell? Jay's like, what's going on? He's like, what are they talking about? I was like, I don't know. So I pulled this guy to the side. I said, yo, what's going on? He's like, yo, everybody got the Snowman shirts. Everybody's making money. And he took us in his booth, and he had Snowman shirts to the ceiling. And he was like, they got Snowman shirts. So Snowman shirts was everywhere. Probably the smartest thing I did, and not the not so smartest thing. The smartest thing I think I did, well, the not so smartest thing I didn't do was trademarking it, right? But I don't think that matters because I ended up getting a clothing line with Jay-Z behind that because he saw what was going on, And that's when we came up with 8732, with USDA, to end up being 8732 because the government put a cease and desist out for USDA. So Jay was like freaking out, what are we gonna do? I said, yo, take the US and the DA, we're gonna use the numbers on the phone like you do on the beeper, and that's where we got the 8732 from. The best thing I could have done was not trademark it, because the fact that everybody was eating off of those things, it was basically giving me promotion in places I would have never been. I couldn't go in Harlem every week and be there. I couldn't go in Brooklyn. I couldn't go in Detroit. I couldn't go in DC. But the shirts was there. And how I knew I was on to something, I'm sitting there one day, we're watching the news, and the news come on CNN. They like, they're banning these shirts all around. It's so bad. It's so. I'm looking like, what the hell? You know, and which was even crazy because I'm like, how the hell CNN know who I am, right? At that time. And again, that's how God works, is I was mad, but what I go do? I went and put it in the music, and that's when I wrote Can't Ban the Snowman with Don Cannon, and that exploded, right? But that came from the frustration of them trying to ban me. So that's why I say every time something bad happens, something good happens.
So the streets is watching.
Yeah.
That was supposed to be what, G's Up?
Yes. G's Up, and Lil Scrappy had a group called G's Up, and I didn't know. And I had already gave DJ Drama the tape. Then I called him late one night, like, we're gonna change it to The Streets is Watching. And that's how that tape popped off. Because if you listen to the tape, there's still G's Up drops on there. It's not Streets is Watching drops. We just changed the name and the artwork, but we didn't change the music or the dialogue on it.
Another funny story is Can't Tell Me Nothing with Kanye when you said
Yes. So Kanye, so me and Tip had a record on the Recession called I Got Money, and it was me and Tip, and I wanted to get Kanye on it. DJ Toomp produced the record, which was Tip's producer at the time. So I called Ye. I already had Tip's verse, and Ye was like, yeah, I'll do it. So we had the song, it was time to mix it, and Ye was supposed to send his verse back the day before the mix. So when Ye sends his verse back, it's a whole nother song because he's reproduced the song and put the all this. I'm like, yo, bro, it's a different song. Like, I can't put it on the album. It doesn't even sound like what the music sound like on the album. He's like, all right, don't worry about it. So about 8 months later, Ye called me out the blue. He's like, yo, come to the studio. I'm in LA. So I pull up to the studio. He's like, yo, man, you remember that song we did? You know, I was like, yeah. He's like, I want to keep it. I was like, yeah, whatever. He's like, can I keep your ad-libs on it? I was like, yeah, whatever. Mind you, I just heard his verse. I didn't heard the da-da-da, where did I get my money? I didn't heard that yet. So he played it for me, and I was like, interesting. I didn't think nothing about it. Me and Jay-Z, Beyonce, Kanye, we're in London, and I go on at 9 and Kanye go on at 11. So I go on at 9, I got like 20,000 people there. It's the same park or something, we outside. Kanye goes on at 11. He got 80,000 people there. I'm standing next to J&B. The first song he walked out on was the Wait Till I Get My Money Right. And it was 80,000 people singing it. And Jay looked at me and said, like, you sure you wanted to give that song away? And I was just like, damn. However, we got back because after his mother passed, you know, Ye wasn't doing any music. And this is when I was finishing the Recession and I wrote Put On. And I called him. I was like, yo, I got this song. You know, it's about putting on. And I explained to him what putting on was. He was like, oh, yeah. And he was like, man, I haven't wrote anything since my mother passed, but I'll do it for you. And he called me back like an hour later and rapped me the verse. I'm like, go record it. He's like, it's already recorded. I said, send it to me. And when I pushed play and I heard that verse, I was like, my God. I never heard a verse like that. And I didn't even tell my friends, right? I mean, even my peers or nobody. I took the record, gave it to Greg Street on B103. I'm on my way out of town to go do a show, and we all on the tour bus, and he plays it 100 times back to back. And my phone rang all day. And there was people sitting there with me that was in the studio when I recorded the song. Like, when did you put Kanye? And it was probably one of the biggest moments in my career, for sure.
you had a rough time navigating survival remorse. Do you feel like you still kind of have a rough time sometimes?
No, I chose me. Um, it wasn't easy. I just chose me. I just chose my peace, my happiness, and I really don't give a damn what nobody think no more. It was a time where I used to kind of be like, oh well, but I don't care no more. And it's just like, you gotta take care of yourself before you can take care of anybody else. And the problem was I was trying to take care of everybody else. And, you get to a point where, that's just not gonna work anymore. Because now you're not taking care of yourself. They tell you on the airplane, if you go down, put your mask on first. And it's like I was going down. I had to put my mask on first. Yeah.
And before we leave, I know next month I think it's like the 15 years for Recession.
Oh, you own it. I didn't even know that.
How does that feel? Like the album that changed your life.
Right.
It's about to hit 15 years.
I mean, 15 years, I'm like, this sounds like a long time.
It's really not a long time when you think about it.
Yeah, Recession to me was my favorite album because I wrote it in a good space and I really was intentional about what I was doing. And I learned a lot making the Recession. And, to catch that moment in time where the world was changing and people were going through a different type of struggle they haven't felt since the Great Depression. And for me to have the soundtrack for that and see how effective it was, I mean, it really made me believe that was why I was supposed to be here, So for it to come back 15 years later and still be timeless, I think that's amazing. Like I'm excited about that.
Well, thank you for talking with us today.
For sure.
And thank you for this book.
Adversity for Sale. You
amazing.
gotta believe. Thank you.
Any last words about it?
You gotta believe in yourself, and at the end of the day, like, you can lose as many times as possible, but you only gotta win one. And if you lose 1,000,000 times, that's 1,000,000 lessons. Just know that.